Building on that idea, program charters, decisions, and approvals form the first layer of tangible proof. Each document should carry timestamps and identifiable approvers. These timestamps tell the story of when direction was set, when changes were made, and how quickly the organization acted. A well-kept charter establishes initial intent, while decision records trace how that intent evolved through real-world events. For example, a timestamped approval to expand funding for identity automation shows responsiveness to emerging needs. Missing dates or unclear authorizations, however, make decisions impossible to defend later. Precision in records is not bureaucracy. It is the memory that sustains trust. From those records, clearly documented roles and delegations provide evidence of accountability. They specify who is responsible, who is consulted, and who may approve or override decisions. Programs often stumble when these lines blur. For instance, if two committees believe they control the same budget, conflicts and delays follow. A concise roles matrix or responsibility chart clarifies boundaries and authority. Over time, it becomes part of onboarding and governance reference material. When auditors review delegation logs, they see proof that decisions align with approved authority levels. Transparent roles reduce reliance on personality and keep governance durable even as personnel change. Evidence also lives within the portfolio's backlog history and recorded outcomes. A well-managed backlog shows every initiative proposed, prioritized, and either completed or deferred. Its history reveals decision quality, how well the program selects and finishes what matters most. Reviewing this log can show improvement in cycle times or in value realization. For instance, early backlogs might include too many low-impact projects, while later ones reflect tighter selection discipline. When a program can trace outcomes back to decisions in its backlog, it demonstrates maturity. The backlog becomes not just a planning tool, but a living archive of strategic follow-through. Closely related, budget allocations, spending patterns, and variance tracking provide hard evidence that resources align with priorities. Every dollar tells a story. Allocations show intent, spending shows execution, and variance shows adaptation. When actuals differ from plan, the explanation is as important as the number. Perhaps savings came from automation or cost avoidance. Perhaps overruns reflect unplanned compliance work. Recording these reasons shows governance awareness rather than loss of control. In audit terms, complete budget evidence proves stewardship. In business terms, it proves credibility. Transparent financial records make the difference between trusted management and perceived mismanagement. From a governance perspective, meeting minutes and recorded actions are among the most scrutinized forms of evidence. Minutes document what was discussed, what was decided, and who owns each action item. A consistent format, topic, decision, action, owner, due date, turns meetings into traceable progress. Imagine an auditor reviewing 6 months of minutes and seeing issues raised, resolved, and closed within predictable cycles. That rhythm itself is evidence of control. The absence of notes or inconsistent detail, by contrast, signals risk of neglect. Reliable minutes build continuity between governance sessions and prevent repetition of past debates. Vendor oversight produces its own trail of evidence and artifacts. Contracts, service reviews, and performance reports all show how external partners are managed. Programs should retain meeting summaries, remediation logs, and third-party attestations as part of the record. For example, quarterly reports from a managed detection provider might include detection accuracy and response times. Storing these artifacts in a central repository demonstrates active oversight. If issues are identified and tracked to closure, the record shows accountability beyond organizational walls. Weak vendor evidence leaves programs exposed to assumptions. Strong documentation proves diligence and extends governance integrity to every provider relationship. Metrics form another dimension of proof, beginning with throughput, lead time, and aging. Throughput measures how many work items the program completes in a period. Lead time tracks how long they take from request to finish, while aging highlights tasks stuck in progress. Together, these indicators reveal the system's flow health. For example, if lead time increases but throughput remains stable, bottlenecks may have formed. Evidence of these metrics over time allows leaders to target specific improvements. Unlike static reports, these numbers create narrative, how the program accelerates, stalls, or adapts. Measurement transforms perception into reality. Complementing operational flow are metrics focused on risk reduction and control coverage. These indicators assess how well program actions are lowering residual risk and strengthening defenses. They might measure reduction in unpatched vulnerabilities, improved compliance scores, or expanded control adoption. For instance, a decline in open audit findings alongside rising coverage percentages shows that investments are working. Capturing these metrics with clear definitions and consistent intervals ensures they stand as credible evidence. Numbers alone do not prove success, but trends aligned with strategy do. The key is linking each metric to the specific outcome it supports. Beyond metrics, programs must document exceptions, waivers, and compensating controls, including their expiry dates. These records show when management knowingly accepted deviation from a standard, under what conditions, and for how long. Expiry tracking prevents exceptions from becoming permanent loopholes. For example, a temporary encryption waiver pending vendor upgrade should include a review date and responsible owner. When these records are current, they prove that governance balances realism with discipline. Missing expiry dates suggest neglect. Maintaining a clean, time-bound list turns risk acceptance into managed tolerance, reinforcing credibility with regulators and internal auditors alike. Independent reviews and audit readiness round out the evidence set. External perspectives validate that the program's processes work as described. Preparation means ensuring that every decision, policy, and record is retrievable and explainable. Internal audits should simulate this review, testing whether staff can produce requested documentation promptly. For instance, a mock audit might ask for the decision trail of a major budget shift. The faster and clearer the response, the stronger the program's maturity signal. Evidence readiness is less about compliance theater and more about operational confidence. It proves that transparency is a habit, not a scramble. Even well-structured programs face common pitfalls, and recognizing them is part of maintaining evidence integrity. Typical failures include inconsistent record-keeping, over-reliance on verbal approvals, or metrics chosen for convenience rather than insight. Another trap is focusing on quantity of documentation rather than clarity of linkage. For example, having dozens of reports that cannot be connected to specific outcomes wastes effort. Corrective patterns include central repositories, version control, and defined retention schedules. Training staff to capture decisions in real time reduces rework. Avoiding these pitfalls keeps governance documentation alive, accurate, and meaningful rather than ceremonial. Ultimately, evidence supports sustained governance. It shows that decisions are real, roles are clear, risks are managed, and progress is measured. More importantly, it demonstrates that the program learns from its own records. Evidence builds institutional memory, allowing new leaders to understand past reasoning without guesswork. Metrics track not just output but effectiveness, guiding the next cycle of planning. When a program's story can be told entirely from its documented actions, governance has matured from intent to proof. That is the mark of a program designed not merely to comply, but to endure and improve. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.